welcome to Nice Ashes. I'm Mike.
And I'm Nate.
And so we didn't talk about this last time, but these CAO Flavours, they have a nice little kind of wooden and ribbon wrapper.
They do. They have very good packaging.
And tonight we are smoking Eileen's Dream, which Mike informs me is Irish cream flavored.
Yes. This is a Robusto. Looks to be 52, 54 gauge. 52 gauge, probably. You can look it up.
So initially, I feel it's better than the Bella Vanilla.
After the first puff or two here, I have to concur with that. It's also a significantly darker wrapper, which might be it.
Yep. And it's a little harsh at the get-go here. I think, especially for like a flavored thing. So it is definitely initially a little harsh. But I am getting kind of a creamy, Irish cream-esque flavor. I don't know if you just handed me one and had me drink it. Whoops. If you just handed me one and had me smoke it and had me guess what flavor this is, I don't know if I could place it, actually.
I'm definitely not getting any sweetness off the wrapper with my lips, and I'm not getting any flavor yet.
But I feel like the Moon Trance did take I'm getting a little bit of sweet on the puff, but not to the extent that I could distinctively tell you this is Irish cream.
Sure. I don't know if I'm getting any sweetness that I would say is more than what I would get off of just a sweeter tobacco.
Yeah. So I've got a little game envisioned for you, Mike. Little trivia, as it were. I've got a quote that I want to read, and then I want to see if you know who said it.
All right.
And then this will kick off our topic for this episode. So here's the quote. This is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people no longer. It is a government of corporations, by corporations, and for corporations.
Ooh. I'm going to say Jesus Christ.
That's close. It was actually Moses.
My second favorite founding father, Moses.
Yes. We're not a Christian nation. We're a Moses nation.
Have you ever seen that painting where it has the founding fathers and Jesus and Moses in there?
Oh,
like a few
no.
of the other Bible characters.
There's another real bad one. It's the United Nations building, and Jesus is like the size of Godzilla, and he's like knocking on the window on like the 100th and 20th floor or something like that. It's a goofy picture, man. If you Google like Jesus United Nations, you'll probably see it. But we saw that once, and it stuck in it burned itself into my brain.
I think that my lovely spouse has arrived home. I don't know if you could hear her music in the background, but I'm hearing her greet the dog in the kennel.
Oh, I can hear some music, but as long as it's not Disney music, we shouldn't get any takedown notices.
No, it was very heavy metal. Very heavy metal. So it was on my end. For those who are listening, our third podcast host, she needed a kennel, so I built one. And I spent the last 2 weekends building her one. And so now she's all excited to be out there. But anyway, continue on, Nate. Continue on. So who was the quote?
All right, so you're thinking like founding father?
No. I'm thinking modern person. Realistically, maybe Christopher Hitchens or Noam Chomsky or somebody of that nature. Or maybe Tucker Carlson.
The answer may surprise you. This was said by Rutherford B. Hayes, the 19th president of the United States. And he was president from 1877 to 1881.
Wow, that's a shocker.
I know.
That is crazy.
That's why I thought you would get a kick out of that.
That was definitely interesting. You got another one for me?
Well, I don't know that much about Rutherford B. Hayes. Only that he only served one term because he said he would. I looked it up a little bit, and I guess he and his opponent didn't win enough votes to win the election. So they decided to let Rutherford B. Hayes do it because of the way the election system works in our country. If nobody gets enough votes to do it, I think the House gets to decide.
Yeah, they do.
And so he did that, and I don't know that much else about him, but it was fascinating that somebody of that era, and he died, I think, in 1889 or 1890 or something, so he didn't even see the turn of the century. But for somebody to say that at back then, and I feel like it's only gotten...
you have to remember that was right before, 1870s was right before the Gilded Age, and that was like the height of evilness in corporate America. That was like
was it though?
Led to the progressive era, as they call it. I think so, because they had child labor and all kinds of crazy shit, and people should, I don't know how much they cover it in the standard history class in high school nowadays.
Yeah, I don't know about nowadays. I remember learning about, Upton Sinclair in the jungle and, some other working conditions and stuff like that. But I guess I don't know if I don't think the corporations are any weaker nowadays.
Now they're back to being extremely powerful. They just export a lot of the really bad shit. And they make everybody here a wage slave, so they can't resist the system, more or less.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel like we talked about that briefly, where it's like, you can't really vote with your dollar anymore because, if Amazon's cheaper, you can't afford the real price because, with inflation and everything, and they pass all the taxes and everything down to the consumer.
Right. They do. I know it drives me nuts when people, I buy my work clothes and my work boots and my shoes and my regular clothes, and I try to get all American made or German made or Finnish made stuff. I try to avoid all that stuff made in, communist China and Bangladesh. But it can be difficult for people. It's like a part-time hobby to try to do that. And then it limits you, when you're buying a pair of work pants that cost you $70 instead of the $20 you can get a pair of Dickies for. It does limit the number of work pants you can have, for sure.
And speaking about like work pants and work boots and stuff, one of the other things that kind of popped up when I was looking up the Rutherford B. Hayes is a little thing from Terry Pratchett.
I do not know who that is.
Oh, he's an author, or was.
Oh.
And he is the one that did the Discworld series. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Never heard of him.
But basically, it's kind of I don't know, it's all very satirical, of course, but Discworld is the world is a disc, and it's on the back of, what is it? It's on the back of, I think, 4 elephants standing on top of a space tortoise. And they actually send expeditions like over the edge of the disc to get a look at the thing. And one of the big arguments in the books, I guess, I haven't read, I think I maybe read one of the books. I mean, there's a ton of books in this series. But one of the things is they want to find out what gender the turtle is, the tortoise.
Oh,
but it's way down because you have to go way down, elephants and then the tortoise and whatnot. But he came up with this boot theory. And so I'll just read it. It's a little long, but that's okay. We've got time. The reason that the rich were so rich, Vimes reasoned, was because they managed to spend less money. Take Boots, for example. He earned $38 a month plus allowances. A really good pair of leather boots cost $50, but an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. Those were the kind of boots Vimes always bought and wore until the soles were so thin that he could tell where he was in Ankh-Morpork on a foggy night by the feel of the cobbles. And that's just the name of this kind of world and neighborhood he was writing about. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years. A man who could afford $50 and had a pair of boots that'd still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while a poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have spent $100 on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. This was Captain Samuel Vimes's boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. Which I guess is kind of true. You know, if you buy decent, or, you know, you can buy cheap and get by for a bit, or you can buy quality and not have to worry.
Right.
But
that
doesn't.
That.
But that's not to say that everybody can afford to buy the quality either. You know, so that's kind of the point of Terry Pratchett was making.
Absolutely. There's a Woody Guthrie line, which I'm not sure how many of our listeners are listening to Woody Guthrie at the same rate that I do, but there's a line in one of his songs that says, your $2 boots don't fit my feet. It takes a $10 boot to fit my foot. And I'm not going to take this, or I'm not going to be treated this way, you know? And it's like the same sentiment in a way, you know, where being poor means that you're limited on what you can spend your money on. And a lot of times you're getting a very inferior product.
Yeah, and then you have to keep rebuying it.
Oh, absolutely.
Which could be the, you know, according to Terry Pratchett, could be the design all along.
Yes. Yes. Well, you know, we live in, was it fast fashion is the trend?
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you can't buy a good pair of boots and you have to buy the bad pair of boots and keep buying boots, you can't do things like invest in AMC or GameStop and mess with the rich people's Wall Street money.
And get upset because they ban you from doing it, even though it's technically illegal. Yes. You know, for $300 you can get a decent pair of work boots. For $400 you can get a very solid pair of work boots. But I see people even I work with people that are salaried. They're making plenty of money and they're trying to work with $125 work boots. And it's just like, really, dude? Like, really? Like, just go get a nice pair of boots. I know you can afford it. And of course, those are the same people that always complain about, you know, their feet hurting and blah, 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 blah. It's like, of course. Don't be a fool. You know? You're not going to damage them at the job. More or less. You'll wear out the soles, but anyway. Not to get off.
Do you ever get your work boots resold? Yeah. Or do you just buy a new pair?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I get them resold. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you buy a good enough pair of shoes, there's still people that do it, the cobblers, that will resell shoes, even dress shoes.
There's 3 cobblers within 30 minutes of my house, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, okay.
You know,
there's probably more than I'm aware of then.
Loggers, and there's all that sort of stuff. And those loggers get their boots resold for the most part, you know.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm quite halfway. I'm approaching the halfway mark of this cigar, and it has lost all hints of sweetness. I think I got a little bit of sweetness the first inch or so, but now I don't think there's any flavor.
I'm a little less than halfway done. Yes, a very good flavor as far
It's
as
a
a
good,
cigar.
it's
It's
a good
decent.
flavor. I'm not, again, it's just I don't know that I don't I don't think the Irish cream is coming through.
No, I might get a creaminess, but not sweetness.
Yeah.
It's definitely not sour.
No. No, no.
It's a
It's not
pleasant enough
acidic
cigar.
like
Yeah.
the Bella Vanilla, but yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll keep smoking and kind of see where it goes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not a dud. It's not unpleasant
No,
by any means, but I would not call this a flavored cigar at this point.
I think so. I kind of let it sit for a bit, and then the puff that I just took, there was a hint of something
Sure.
that, for lack of a better word, we'll call Irish cream.
You are actually ahead of me on the cigar. So I've been smoking it much slower than you.
Okay.
And I'm getting some creaminess, but not really Irish cream.
Yeah. Yep. I would concur with that. But what are we going to do about the corporations, Mike?
Hard to say, right? The buy less shit. That's ultimately the answer. Buy less shit,
Yeah.
and legally in the United States, corporations are human beings, thanks to the Supreme Court. So at this point, you almost have to get politicians in who are so outside of the mainstream they would be willing to support a constitutional amendment to make corporations businesses again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost beyond repair. If the government is saying that corporations are people, then you're kind of fucked. There's just not a whole lot that can be done at that point because they can spend legally. Corporations can give politicians unlimited amounts of money through various means.
I wonder who that benefits.
Right. And now I know Ted Cruz, he just started a lawsuit last week or 2 weeks ago or something,
Okay.
a while ago, where so there's a loophole in the law where a politician can loan themselves $250,000 from their campaign fund. So they can loan from their private money. They can loan their campaign 250 grand. They can charge interest to the campaign and collect on the interest. So they can charge 25% interest, which is not illegal in the United States. You can charge 25% interest. So they can get back, $250,000 plus 25% legally into their pocket directly. And they can do that over and over and over and over again. In fact, they have to be paid back within like 30 days or something.
Okay.
So Ted Cruz just loaned himself $260,000 at 20% interest or whatever to break the law on purpose so he could sue to break the cap. He thinks it's illegal. He thinks that
to put a cap on it?
To put a cap on it, that they should just be able to take all the money from their corporate donors and put it directly into their pocket without having anything to do with any limitations or campaign funds or whatever.
Yeah, and see, so that's where...
Because money is speech, you got to remember. So Ted Cruz's argument is that it's morally right and just and legal for corporations to give politicians money directly because that's human beings talking to their elected representatives according to the law.
But that's where I get a huge, American dream, sad funeral march noises or something, because when you say, hey, one day you could be like an Elon Musk, or you could be a Donald Trump, or you could be a whatever, these people, they have so much money, they think so differently with their money, and they can do things like this, loan themselves money and just make more money from nothing because they bought all the laws that allow them to do it, there's really no way for the average citizen to get into that upper echelon unless one of those people brings you there.
Right.
For whatever reason.
Right. And by the way, Ted Cruz is an extremely wealthy man. His wife is on the board of Goldman Sachs or something like that. So, and he was a Supreme Court lawyer.
They all are.
Absolutely. They become mega millionaires. How is Joe Biden a millionaire? He's been in government his entire adult life.
Well, they're all millionaires, and when they get into politics, they just exponentially grow that.
Right.
But you can't really get to that level of politics without being a millionaire or a multimillionaire, because the smear campaigns that they could be writing against you, you know. Like you would go bankrupt trying to come up with better advertisements than they have.
Sure. I mean, it's hard to say. Maybe in a smaller district, you could win a congressional seat without having a lot of money.
Yeah, I feel a lot of those people are kind of like once and done, though.
Oh, yeah, because the machine gets in there. And then if you're not playing ball.
Yeah, if you don't play ball with the machine.
Yeah. You're not going to get a chairmanship for anything because you can't raise money for the Democratic or the Republican Party, whatever. This is, for any of our listeners who are getting their hackles up, I'm sure there's somebody who's trying to blame the other party. This is a both sides issue. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is an embezzling piece of shit, just the same as Ted Cruz or any of the other ones. You know, they're all the same as far as being corrupted by money goes. Yeah. Even Bernie Sanders has been corrupted by money, and his claim to claim was that he's the least corrupted by money.
But still corrupted.
Yeah.
I mean, these are, I don't know if we talked about this, but there was an interview with Bill Gates where they were asking him how much like a gallon of milk cost. And he literally had no idea. And somebody was like, "Oh, it was so cute how, Bill Gates didn't know how much a glass of milk cost." And somebody came back and was like, "That's not cute. That's sad. These are the people that are kind of setting the prices and taxing us and, doing inflation and setting, financial fiscal policies and things. And they don't know how much basic necessities of life cost." Just like the baby formula shortage. It was they introduced a bill to kind of jumpstart the baby formula production. And like something like 192 Republicans voted against it. Probably the same people that voted for, outlawing abortion. So they don't care. They just want the babies to be born, but they don't want them to be taken care of, I guess.
Right. Well, the people who are against abortion because of the right to life are also the people who support, all sorts of things that are against life, like war and executing criminals and things of that nature, which I'm pro-executing criminals, kind of, in theory.
All right, well, let's get into that a little bit.
So I'm not morally against capital punishment, but in practice, it's just not practical. In the U.S. court system, for instance, in Minnesota, they don't have the death penalty. And Minnesota saves a shit ton of money because without new evidence, once you're convicted of a murder, let's say, in Minnesota, you get one appeal. And then if there's no new evidence and you lose the appeal, which is a second trial, you're done until new evidence comes forward. So there's 2 fucking trials and then it's over. But if you get the death penalty, you have the right to have your local trial, your state appeal court, your state Supreme Court, your federal appeals court, and then theoretically you could put it in the Supreme Court docket. And then they can execute you. So that's a shit ton of money wasted for no reason. And it does cost a lot of money to house people in prison. But it doesn't cost that as much as having lawyers tied up in court for years with trials and everything else. Because you have a right to a trial by jury every time, right?
Yep. And you can get what? I don't know how the stays of execution work, but you can get those too.
Oh, sure.
Like I know in Hollywood, it's always like they're on the chair or something, and somebody runs in and is like, "No, we got the stay of execution." And I don't know how often it happens like that, but there's lots of things.
It's just not. Just not fiscally responsible as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about like the mental torment and anguish, potentially, if they're wrongfully accused of what being on death row would do.
Sure, and the Innocence Project has found hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Who were falsely convicted back in the day.
Yep.
But before DNA evidence became borderline mandatory.
Yeah.
But yeah. What do you think about it?
Well, I guess like initially I think that if you did a nonviolent crime, you shouldn't be in prison.
I disagree.
I
think that financial crimes should be punished severely.
But by prison though?
Yeah, I think by even more than prison sometimes. The Bernie Madoffs of the world, I think that him and his wife should have been publicly executed, for sure. I have no problem with that. Not that it's economically feasible to have him go through all the courts procedures and everything. But I see no problem with that. Personally, I don't think it's cruel or unusual for people who steal that much money.
Yeah, and maybe maybe there's certain limits or upper bounds, that you have to kind of break to get into that realm. I guess I wasn't, when I said nonviolent crimes, I wasn't really considering like Bernie Madoff. But the financial crime could be that it started as a financial crime, but they really fucked over a lot of people's lives and livelihoods by doing that. And so I think you'd have to show that. I don't know about like a possession of drugs, but that's different than maybe like possession of drugs with intent to sell. I don't know. I think most drugs should be legal. That way you know what's in them, the potency, and all that stuff. But
I agree. I'm a hardliner on the drug issue too, I guess. I don't think that any drug should be against the law.
There's a lot of people in prison that really didn't do anything. Like if you're not violent, if you didn't swindle half the country or something, I don't know. Should you be getting free room and board, access to a gym? I don't know. I think in some cases, a death penalty I'm fine with. The only thing that kind of makes me nervous is, the innocent ones, because no system will be perfect.
No, and that's why they have all the appeals,
Yeah. I just don't know that I don't know if it's the right way to do it, or the right thing to do.
I'm perfectly okay with life in prison. It sounds psychotic, but I think it should be expanded. I don't see any reason why rapists or pedophiles or wife beaters should get off as light as they do.
Maybe
I'm a crazy hardliner, but if you're convicted of rape, you probably shouldn't be allowed out.
Yeah, when I think about people that I would give the death penalty to, it's all those people you just listed.
Right.
And I know that there's been studies on kind of like trying to reform the prisoner, the inmate, um, and things, and I don't know that you should discount that, but I don't know how realistic that is in a lot of circumstances either.
It depends on what their quote unquote crime is. If their quote unquote crime is being uh, a petty drug dealer, then sure. But if they're a sex trafficker, they're probably too far down the rabbit hole of a criminal lifestyle to rehabilitate them at that point. At least in large enough numbers to make it financially responsible to try. You
Yeah.
know, we're not talking about somebody selling loose cigarettes on the side of the street, which people have been killed for doing that by the police. All the same, uh, you know.
The 22nd most dangerous career.
Yes. I always get a kick out of that.
Yeah. I guess, I think the death penalty is kind of a slippery slope because, do you want to kill people, and do you want, and then the extension of that almost is like the police force. Do you want the police killing people? And sometimes I understand there's circumstances and situations where, police are in a life-threatening situation and need to do something to protect themselves or to protect somebody else. But it seems, and maybe it's just the media, and maybe it's just people with the message that they're trying to get across that police are evil and bad, which I don't think is what we're trying to say, but it might be. But I don't think so. But they
no.
They tend to use lethal force in circumstances that doesn't call for it.
See, I can't believe I'm going to defend the police here, but I am. Of the millions of police interactions a year, possibly even tens of millions of police interactions a year, there's a few hundred that are bad enough to make it on the news. People are people. Police are going to make interpersonal poor decisions that don't make it to the news. And then there's a few extreme cases, like that are just egregious that make it onto the news. And let's say that there's 500 a year. I don't know how many there really are. I'm sure there's a study that says it. It's really not that common. It's uncommon enough to where it makes it to the news. If it was really common, it wouldn't make it to the news. They would cover it up.
Yeah.
The problem I have with police violence is when the uncommon does happen, the police departments still try to protect the cops. And they shouldn't, because there's millions and millions of interactions with officers every year that go perfectly fine. Even when there's a violent criminal involved or whatever,
Yeah.
So when there is a cop like a Derek Chauvin, they should hang him out to dry, which they did in that instance.
Yeah,
But,
not initially, but they came around to it.
Right.
But it's the same thing. It's, I don't know, the police force, kind of a fraternity, you're all out for the other person, and you have to rely on them in certain cases, and you face potentially life-threatening circumstances together, and you have to do that, but that doesn't mean every single one of the police officers is a good person or makes good decisions. And sometimes they're just like anybody, even in an office setting where, we're all in this office building, but that doesn't mean, so-and-so down the hall doesn't have a temper, or so-and-so down the hall doesn't have an authority complex, or all that stuff. The only difference between maybe like an office building and police officers is in the office building, you're not generally carrying a gun all the time.
Right. Well, I know that this is, again, another controversial thing. My grandfather who's been dead for many years now, told me that when he got out of World War II, uh, it was hard to get a job initially, and he ended up getting a job at the railroad and was a mason and all that sort of stuff. But he applied to be a cop, and the police departments in this area wouldn't hire World War II vets. They would only hire the guys who didn't go to the war.
Okay.
So the guys like my grandfather had no respect for the police, basically their entire lives. Because they were the guys who went to war were a group together,
Yeah.
And the police were universally not from combat. And because police violence has been an issue even when I was a little kid. And my grandfather told me to basically be wary of the police,
Yeah.
back in the day. And I thought about that, and I did a little bit of research, and it was a common practice then, post, in the 40s and the 50s, because they didn't want the guys that had PTSD to come back and fucking start shooting people as a police officer, because they were aware that these guys were going to have problems from their experience in World War One. And now it's encouraged for police officers to be veterans. And there's nothing wrong with being a veteran, obviously. My dad was in for years and years. My grandfather was in. But if there is a problem with treating civilians like they're enemy combatants, and I think that...
Well, and more police departments are getting more and more militarized with their equipment and weapons, and some of them even have like urban tanks.
Oh yeah.
So they kind of need the veterans to teach them how to use that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the problem too. Is that even if these guys are good guys, you put them in SWAT gear basically full time, and you're giving them tactical shit. You're gonna be in that mode of like, let's go kill Iraqis, Except you're not in Iraq. You're in downtown
Iowa.
Sacramento. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not good. I know a couple of the police/sheriff departments up here got those tanks, the MRAPs or whatever. And a few of the local departments, one department in particular that I'm thinking of, they made a video of them jumping the fucking tank, and they got in trouble.
Oh, I think I heard about that.
Yeah, they made it. I'm not worried about the cops up here using a tank to hurt anybody. These guys up here are good old boys. They're here to harass tourists and teenage drinkers. They're not like going around beating people up or whatever, or anything like that.
Yeah.
But they wanted the tank so they could be hillbillies and jump cars and shit. Like on the weekend for fun. They're not ever intending on bringing this thing, to Leech Lake or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not driving it over to Mille Lacs to police the fishing tournament. But uh-oh. Is there a tornado, Nate?
No, that's they do a 9:00 curfew here. I don't know how in practice it is with, law enforcement or the tanks that they have crawling around the neighborhood right now. Just kidding. There's no tanks. But it's like a holdover from the 40s or 50s. This siren has gone off at 9:00 at night for decades. So I don't know if
it's a sign for the kids to go home.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like legally a curfew that's enforced, or if they just do it because they've always done it.
Sure. That's like the beard laws that are up here.
Yep.
Yeah. For people that don't know, there's a few places up north here where the railroad was the dominant force, and they made the guys shave in the 1800s. So a lot of towns passed beard laws saying that people who lived in the city limits had to have a beard for 6 months out of the year, so they could circumvent the corporate authority back then. But anyway, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that I'm just about done with this cigar. Got maybe an inch left.
I got maybe an inch and a quarter. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm not getting a huge flavor from it. It's definitely better than the Bella Vanilla. I'll say that. But it doesn't come close to the Moon Trance.
No,
I think
it's
I
not
think
repulsive.
the moon trance was something special. I think.
It's borderline magical, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I really like them.
So what flavors do we have left then of these?
We have cherry,
And a honey, don't
honey,
we?
maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that might be it. I think I'm not sure if we should talk about it on air, but I'm pretty sure we have that torpedo as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we if we do have the torpedo, it's a moon trance torpedo that we might have. We were going to smoke that one just to see if the torpedo is any different, right?
Yeah, we can cap off the experience. I might have an extra one so I could shoot that one to you.
Okay.
So you could have two for potential guest usage.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to search my humidor though. I can't remember if I bought how many I bought when I bought them.
I'll have to look at mine too, see what I got. Because I know I have a moon trance, but I guess I didn't look to see if it was a torpedo or not. I was just trying to find the cigar for tonight. So for this episode. So, but yeah, I guess the Eileen stream. If you're going into it wanting a Irish cream flavor, it's probably not it. But if you want a CAO, it's not offensive. As kind of you get a creamy taste. I wouldn't say consistently throughout, but you do get, I don't know, hints of that throughout the cigar.
Yeah, it's okay. This is I would say it's a dud as well, but it's not. It's a meh. It's not a bad. It's not horrible.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess here's a good question. Trying to just place this somewhere where you and I can wrap our heads around it, and hopefully our listeners can wrap our heads around it. Would you rather smoke Eileen's Dream or the Bin Maduro? Not the tequila
They're very
Maduro.
similar. They're very similar in my mind.
I
would rather smoke the Bin Maduro because it's cheaper.
Okay. Yeah. I would say that I might, just for taste-wise, flavor-wise, I might give the edge to this Eileen's Dream.
Yeah.
But the price would be a big factor. So.
It's not good enough for me to say.
Yeah.
That this is better than the Bin Maduro, I guess. The Bin Maduro really didn't have that much flavor until we put tequila on it.
Yeah. You know what? I would probably only buy those Bin Maduros to put tequila on them because it was fantastic with the tequila.
Yeah.
You know what? I guess, so here's a good question, and these are probably too expensive of cigars to, do this a lot, but would tequila improve a flavored cigar like this?
Probably. Probably. I don't think it would help out the
I don't think you'd get the flavor they want you to get out of it, but it would probably make it more full-bodied.
On this cigar, yes. On the vanilla cigar, gosh, I don't know what would help.
I think
that
that'd be
out,
weird.
Yeah, that was not that was unpleasant to smoke, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
I highly recommend not buying that. This Eileen's Dream, it's okay. I mean, I would not suggest anybody go out and get one.
No.
To be perfectly honest. But it's not offensive. It's fine.
No.
I'm sure somebody out there loves it.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of the differentiating factor for me is Eileen's Dream. I can see people enjoying it, whereas the Bella Vanilla, and I even said it at the end of the last episode, I was struggling to picture somebody who would enjoy this cigar. Certainly, if you enjoyed the Bella Vanilla, and you're listening to us, I mean, that's fine. We're not saying don't enjoy it. We're not trying to poo-poo your tastes. But there's so many better cigars, I think, out there. It was very kind of acidic and harsh.
Right. Yeah, it's not for everybody, that's for sure.
Yep.
I think it's a nice way. See, I'm still smoking this Eileen's Dream. I'm going to smoke it down to a nub.
Yep, I smoked mine down to a nub.
It's fine. I would definitely say it'd be okay to smoke on a lawnmower, which isn't saying a lot, really. But it's okay. It's not bad.
Yeah, it'd be a fine one to give away.
I wouldn't give it to anybody.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't, because then the gift giving process is, I would want to give something better.
Well, you could give it to an enemy.
Yeah, I'd give it to Donald Biden for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's better cigars. It wasn't entirely unenjoyable, the Eileen stream, but not one that I would go and smoke again, probably.
No, I'll never smoke one of these again. I guess I shouldn't never say never. If somebody gave me one, I would smoke it. Yeah. If I didn't have anything else to smoke.
Or if they were one of those people that were like, here, let me give you a cigar. I heard you like cigars. I want to watch you smoke it now. Like, you'd almost have to, but...
I've never met anybody like that, but, you should show me those people, because I would love to give you cigars.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Eileen's Dream is definitely not recommended, but it's not... I'm not discouraging anybody from trying it either.
Yeah, I wonder if we kind of messed up by starting with the moon trance.
I don't think so. Because I knew the moon trance was good, and I wanted to start off on a positive note.
Yeah.
Get people, get everybody, including you, invested.
Yes, excited for the flavor showdown.
Right, yeah, because the moon trance, like I say, I've been smoking those for years, and I can't get enough of them. They're wonderful. But these are just trash. Yeah. Just trash.
Yeah. Well, you know what else they say is trash, not a sponsor.
No, trash is either are the police.
Nope. And neither are CAO, for that matter.
No, not yet. Ha ha ha.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe they'll listen to this and send us a box of Bella Vanilla each.
Right. Yeah.
Please don't.
Yeah. Thorogood Boots and Danner. That's who should sponsor us.
Okay. I don't know.
For anybody who's out there who works for a living, quote unquote, the Danner Power Formans, I highly recommend if you have a narrow foot, which I do not. I have a very wide foot. But otherwise, get a pair of Thorogoods. They're pretty good too. I don't really like any of the work Red Wings. I do like the Heritage Red Wings. They're really awesome. I'd wear those for work boots, but you have to have steel toes pretty much everywhere on this planet if you want to work maintenance, or construction. But and police, they like their Danners too. So, yeah.
Good. You know what boots to get and which cigars not to.
Yes. Have a good week, guys.
Yep. Thanks for listening.